When struggling single mum Selina Carter jumps into an icy lake to save a drowning man, she never expects him to be Alexander Pierce, billionaire CEO and one of the most powerful men in the city. But when he wakes up determined to find and thank his mystery rescuer, their worlds collide in ways neither could have predicted. As romance sparks and danger lurks, will Selina risk her heart for a man so far out of her world? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning air was bitter cold as Selina Carter jogged along the lakeside path. At 32, she treasured these rare moments of solitude before heading to her job at the local diner and picking up her 8-year-old daughter Lily from her neighbor's apartment. Just 10 more minutes, she promised herself, pulling her worn jacket tighter around her body. That's when she saw it, ripples in the water and what looked like a man's arm disappearing beneath the surface. Without hesitation, Selina kicked off her shoes. "Hey!" she shouted, hoping someone else was nearby. The park was empty. "Hold on!" She plunged into the icy water, the cold stealing her breath. Swimming toward the spot where she'd seen the arm, Selina dove beneath the surface. The murky water made it hard to see, but she felt something, fabric. She grabbed it and pulled with all her strength. A man's unconscious body rose to the surface. Somehow, Selina managed to drag him to shore, her muscles screaming in protest. "Please." "Be alive," she gasped, checking for a pulse. It was faint, but it was there. She immediately started CPR, thankful for the class she'd taken when Lily was born. After what seemed like forever, the man coughed, water spilling from his mouth. His eyes remained closed, but he was breathing. Selina grabbed her cell phone from her jacket pocket and dialed 911. "I need an ambulance at Riverside Park, north entrance," she said, her teeth chattering. "The man nearly drowned. He's breathing but unconscious." While waiting for the ambulance, Selina covered the stranger with her jacket. He was dressed in expensive clothes, a tailored suit now ruined by the lake water. His watch alone, probably, cost more than she made in 3 months. When the paramedics arrived, they took over quickly. "You saved his life," one of them told her. Another minute and it would have been too late. "Will he be okay?" Selina asked. "Hard to say. Are you family?" "No, I just found him in the water." The paramedic nodded. "We're taking him to Memorial Hospital." "You should get yourself checked out too, that water's freezing." Selina shook her head. "I'm fine, I need to get to work." She watched as they loaded the stranger into the ambulance. For a moment she considered going with him, but reality intruded. She was already going to be late for her shift, and she couldn't afford to lose this job. With one last look at the departing ambulance, Selina gathered her things and hurried away. Alexander Pierce opened his eyes to blinding white. Light and the steady beep of monitors. His throat felt raw as if he'd swallowed sandpaper. "He's awake," a female voice said. "Mr. Pierce, can you hear me?" Alexander tried to speak, but could only manage a raspy groan. "Don't try to talk yet," the nurse said. "You've been through quite an ordeal. I'll get the doctor." As his vision cleared, Alexander took in his surroundings. A private hospital room, filled with flowers and gift baskets. His brother James stood by the window, phone in hand. "Alex," James rushed to his side. "Thank God, you've been out for 2 days." 2 days? Alexander's mind raced. The last thing he remembered was walking in the park after a particularly stressful board meeting. He'd stopped by the lake to clear his head and then nothing. The doctor entered, a middle-aged woman with a clipboard and a professional smile. "Mr. Pierce, I'm Dr. Reeves. You're a very lucky man. According to the paramedics, a woman found you in the lake and pulled you out. Without her quick action, you wouldn't be here." "Woman?" Alexander croaked. "She didn't leave her name," James said. "By the time I got to the hospital, she was gone. The paramedics said she performed CPR until they arrived." Alexander tried to sit up, wincing at the pain in his chest. "Easy," Dr. Reeves cautioned. "You suffered hypothermia, and your lungs took in a significant amount of water. You'll need to rest." "What happened?" Alexander asked, his voice slightly stronger. James shook his head. "No one knows. The police think you might have slipped and fallen in. They found your briefcase on the bank." But that didn't sound right to Alexander. He wasn't careless, and he hadn't been drinking. "Your assistant has been rescheduling your meetings," James continued, "and I've handled the Singapore deal. Everything's under control, so just focus on getting better. Alexander nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. Someone had saved his life and he didn't even know who she was. "I want to find her," he said. "Who?" James asked. "The woman who pulled me out." James exchanged glances with the doctor. "Alex, there's no way to know who she is. She didn't stick around." "Find her," Alexander insisted. It wasn't a request. Selina balanced 3 plates along her arm as she weaved between tables at the Sunrise Diner. "Denver omelette for you, pancake special here, and the club sandwich," she said, with a smile that hid her exhaustion. Her manager, Frank, waved her over as she headed back to the counter. "Selina, there's someone asking for you," he said, nodding toward a man in an expensive suit standing by the entrance. Selina frowned. "I don't know him." "Well, he knows you. Says it's important." With a sigh, Selina approached the stranger. "Can I help you?" The man straightened his tie. "Ms. Carter, I'm William Brooks, head of security for Pierce Enterprises. Do you have a moment to talk?" "I'm working," she said, glancing at the busy diner. "It's about Alexander Pierce." The name meant nothing to her. "Sorry, I don't know any Alexander Pierce." William pulled out his phone and showed her a photo of an unconscious man being loaded into an ambulance. This was taken 2 days ago at Riverside Park. Paramedics report that a woman matching your description pulled Mr. Pierce from the lake and performed CPR. Selina's eyes widened. "That was Alexander Pierce, the billionaire?" William nodded. "Mr. Pierce would like to meet you and express his gratitude in person." "That's really not necessary," Selina said. "I'm just glad he's okay." "He's quite insistent." "He sent his car for you." Selina laughed in disbelief. "I'm in the middle of my shift. I can't just leave." Frank appeared behind her. "Go ahead, Selina. Marcy can cover your tables." "But it's not every day you get summoned by a billionaire," Frank said with a wink. Selina looked down at her waitress uniform. "I'm not exactly dressed for meeting a billionaire." "Mr. Pierce doesn't care about that," William assured her. "The car is waiting outside whenever you're ready." 30 minutes later, Selina found herself in the back of a luxury car heading toward Memorial Hospital, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. And the hospital room was larger than Selina's entire apartment. Alexander Pierce sat up in bed, looking much better than when she'd dragged him from the lake. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his strong jawline was freshly shaved. Despite being in a hospital gown, he somehow maintained an air of authority. "Ms. Carter," he said, his voice still slightly rough. "Please, come in." Selina stepped forward, suddenly self-conscious in her diner uniform. "Mr. Pierce." "Alexander, please." His blue eyes studied her intently. "You saved my life." "Anyone would have done the same," she said. "No," he said firmly. "They wouldn't. Most people would have called for help and watched from shore. You jumped into freezing water without hesitation." Selina shrugged, uncomfortable with his praise. "I'm glad you're recovering." "Thanks to you." He gestured to a chair beside his bed. "Please, sit. Tell me about yourself." "There's not much to tell," Selina said, remaining standing. "I was just in the right place at the right time." "You're being modest. William tells me you're a waitress at Sunrise Diner." Selina nodded. "Going on 5 years now." "Family," she hesitated. "A daughter, Lily. She's 8. Alexander nodded as if filing away this information. "I'd like to thank you properly for what you did. Whatever you need, money, a better job, a new home, name it." Selina's expression hardened. "I didn't save you for a reward, Mr. Pierce." "Alexander," he corrected. "I didn't do it for money, Alexander, and I don't need your charity." Instead of being offended, Alexander smiled. It transformed his face, making him look younger, less intimidating. "Forgive me," he said. "I'm used to people wanting something from me." Selina softened slightly. "Well, I don't. I'm glad you're okay, and that's enough for me." A nurse entered with medication, and Selina took the opportunity to stand. "I should get back to work. My daughter will be home from school soon." Alexander reached for her hand, surprising her. His touch was warm, his grip firm but gentle. "Thank you, Selina Carter. I won't forget what you did." Something in his eyes made her heart beat faster. She gently pulled her hand away. Goodbye, Mr. Pierce. Take care of yourself. As Selina left the hospital, she tried to push Alexander Pierce from her mind. Their worlds couldn't be more different. He belonged in penthouses and boardrooms. She belonged in her small apartment with her daughter. Their paths had crossed by chance, but now life would go back to normal, or so she thought. 1 week later, Selina arrived home after her shift to find a large envelope in her mailbox. Inside was a letter on expensive stationery. "Dear Ms. Carter," it read, "I respect your decision to decline my offer of assistance. However, I hope you will accept my invitation to dinner this Saturday as a small token of my gratitude. My driver will pick you up at 7 p.m. Your daughter is welcome to join us. Sincerely, Alexander Pierce." Enclosed was a business card with a private number written on the back. "Mom, what's that?" Lily asked, peering over Selina's shoulder. "Nothing, sweetie," Selina said, tucking the letter away. "Just a dinner invitation." "From who?" "Remember that man I told you about? The one who fell in the lake?" Lily's eyes widened. "The rich one? Are we going to his house?" "No, honey, we're not going. Why not?" Lily pouted. "Is it because we don't have fancy clothes?" Selina sighed. Her daughter was too perceptive sometimes. "It's not that, it's just... we don't belong in his world." "But he invited us," Lily argued. "That means he wants us there, out of the mouths of babes." Selina looked at the letter again, torn between her pride and the curious pull she felt toward Alexander Pierce. "We'll see," she finally said. That night, after Lily was asleep, Selina dialed the number on the card. "Pierce Residence," a formal voice answered. "This is Selina Carter," she said. "I received an invitation from Alexander Pierce." "One moment, please." There was a pause, then Alexander's voice came on the line. "Selina, I'm glad you called." Something about the way he said her name made her stomach flutter. "About your invitation," she began. "Please say you'll come," he said. "No strings attached, just dinner." Selina took a deep breath. "My daughter would like to come too." "Lily is more than welcome," Alexander said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "I'll see you both Saturday at 7. After hanging up, Selina wondered if she'd just made a huge mistake. Alexander Pierce lived in a different universe. What could he possibly want with a single mom who waited tables? Yet as she got ready for bed, she couldn't help but remember the intensity in his blue eyes when he'd looked at her, or the warmth of his hand on hers. For the first time in years, Selina felt something stir inside her. Something she'd long given up on hope. Then Saturday arrived, and with it came panic. Selina stood in front of her closet, pushing hangers back and forth. "I don't have anything to wear to a fancy dinner," she muttered. "You look pretty in your blue dress," Lily offered, already dressed in her Sunday best. Selina smiled at her daughter. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." The doorbell rang precisely at 7. Selina opened it to find William, Alexander's security man. "Good evening, Miss Carter. The car is waiting." 20 minutes later, they pulled up to an elegant restaurant overlooking the city. William escorted them inside, where Alexander was waiting in a private dining room. He stood when they entered, his eyes lighting up at the sight of Selina in her simple blue dress. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, but his smile was warm and genuine. "Selina," he said, coming forward to take her hand. "Thank you for coming." Then he knelt to Lily's level. "And you?" "Must be Lily. It's a pleasure to meet you." Lily studied him with the frank curiosity of a child. "Are you really a billionaire, Lily?" Selina gasped. But Alexander laughed. "Yes, I am. But that's not the most interesting thing about me." "What is?" Lily asked. "Well, I can juggle," he said, "and I make excellent pancakes." Lily grinned. "I love pancakes." "Then we're already friends," Alexander said, standing up. "Shall we eat?" Throughout dinner, Selina watched in amazement as Alexander charmed her daughter, listening intently to her stories about school and answering her endless questions with patience. Not once did he check his phone or seem bored. When Lily went to the bathroom, Alexander turned his full attention to Selina. "She's wonderful," he said. "You've done an amazing job with her." "Thank you," Selina replied, touched by his sincerity. "It hasn't been easy, but she's worth every struggle." "Her father isn't in the picture?" Selina shook her head. "He left when I was pregnant. It's been just Lily and me ever since." Alexander's expression darkened. His loss. The intensity in his eyes made Selina look away. "What about you? No wife or children?" "No," Alexander said. "I've been too focused on building my empire. At least that's what I told myself. And now I'm not so sure that was the right priority." He leaned forward. "Nearly dying changes your perspective." Their eyes met, and Selina felt that flutter again. This time she didn't look away. The evening ended too quickly. Alexander insisted on walking them to their door, despite William's obvious concern about his boss being in Selina's modest neighborhood. "I had a wonderful time," Alexander said as they reached her apartment. "Me too," Lily piped up. "Can we do it again?" Alexander looked at Selina, waiting for her response. "Maybe," she said, offering a small smile. "I'll take that as a yes," Alexander replied. Then, to Selina's surprise, he leaned down and kissed her cheek. "Good night, Selina Carter." After they were inside, Lily twirled around the living room. "I like him, Mum. He's nice." "Yes, he is," Selina admitted, touching her cheek where his lips had been. "Are you going to see him again?" Selina sank onto the couch, conflicted. "I don't know, honey. His world is very different from ours. But he likes us," Lily said with a child's simple logic. "And you like him too, I can tell." Before Selina could respond, her phone buzzed with a text message. "Thank you for tonight," it read. "I haven't enjoyed myself this much in years. Would you and Lily join me for a picnic tomorrow? No fancy restaurants, I promise. Just the three of us." Selina stared at the message, her heart racing. She should say no. Getting involved with Alexander Pierce would only lead to heartbreak. Men like him didn't end up with women like her. But as she looked at the message again, she found herself typing, "We'd love to." As she pressed send, Selina couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change forever, for better or worse. The park bustled with weekend visitors as Alexander spread a checkered blanket on the grass. He had insisted on carrying the picnic basket himself, despite William hovering nearby. "Is this spot okay?" he asked Selina, suddenly unsure. Alexander Pierce, who made billion-dollar decisions without breaking a sweat, was nervous about a picnic. "Location. It's perfect," Selina said, helping Lily settle on the blanket. She was wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt today, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. To Alexander, she had never looked more beautiful. "I brought sandwiches," he said, opening the basket. "I made them myself." Selina raised an eyebrow. "You made them?" "Don't look so surprised," Alexander laughed. "I do know how to function without a personal chef." "Mom says actions speak louder than words," Lily chimed in. "Let's taste them." Alexander handed out sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. He watched nervously as Selina took her first bite. "This is actually good," she admitted. "Don't sound so shocked," he teased. "I told you I had hidden talents." Lily had already devoured half her sandwich. "Can we feed the ducks after?" "Absolutely," Alexander said. He caught Selina watching him with a thoughtful expression. "What?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "It's just, you're different than I expected." "Different good or different bad?" "Good," she said softly. "Definitely good." After lunch, they walked to the lake, the same lake where Selina had pulled Alexander from the water just weeks ago. Lily ran ahead to throw breadcrumbs to the ducks, with William keeping a watchful eye on her. "Does he always follow you everywhere?" Selina asked, nodding toward the security man. "Unfortunately," Alexander sighed. "Being who I am comes with certain precautions. It must be hard, never having privacy." Alexander stopped walking and turned to face her. "Can I tell you something?" Selina nodded. "The day I fell into the lake, I wasn't alone." Selina frowned. "What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about it, trying to remember. I had a meeting that morning with Victor Chambers, my biggest competitor. He wants to buy me out, but I refused." Alexander's voice dropped. "We argued at the park. The last thing I remember is standing by the water, then feeling a hard shove from behind." "You think he pushed you?" Selina gasped. "I can't prove it." "And it sounds paranoid. The billionaire who thinks everyone is out to get him. Have you told the police?" Alexander shook his head. "Without proof, it's just my word against his, and Victor has powerful friends." That's why you have so much security, Selina realized. Yes, but with you and Lily. His eyes softened. I just want to be normal. No bodyguards, no business rivals, just a man enjoying a picnic with a beautiful woman and her daughter. Selina felt her cheeks flush. Alexander. Alex, he corrected. My friends call me Alex. We friends? She asked quietly. He took her hand. I hope we're becoming more than that. Before Selina could respond, Lily came running back. Mom, Alex, look what I found. She held up a shiny stone. The moment passed, but the warmth of Alexander's hand lingered on Selina's skin. Over the next few weeks, Alexander became a fixture in Selina and Lily's life. He would show up at the diner during Selina's shifts, sitting at the counter and ordering coffee. He barely drank while chatting with her between customers. He helped Lily with her homework, brought groceries without being asked, and never once made Selina feel like a charity case. One evening, as they walked home from the diner together, Selina finally asked the question that had been bothering her. Why? Me, Alex? You could be with anyone, models, actresses, women from your world. Why are you spending time with a waitress and her kid? Alexander stopped walking and took both her hands in his. Because you're real, Selina. You saved my life without knowing or caring who I was. You refused to be impressed by my money. When I'm with you and Lily, I'm just Alex, not Alexander Pierce, CEO of Pierce Enterprises. But that is who you are, Selina pointed out. You can't escape it. Maybe not, he admitted. But I can choose who I share my life with, and I choose you. Before she could respond, he leaned down and kissed her. It was gentle at first, then deeper as Selina responded, her arms sliding around his neck. When they finally pulled apart, Selina was breathless. Wow, Alexander's eyes crinkled as he smiled. Wow, indeed. I should get home to Lily, she whispered, still in the circle of his arms. I know. I just needed to do that before I lost my nerve. You? Nervous, terrified, he admitted. You have that effect on me, Selina Carter. As they walked the rest of the way to her apartment hand in hand, Selina felt happier than she had in years. But a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a warning. This couldn't last. Men like Alexander didn't end up with women like her. Sooner or later, reality would intrude on their fairy tale. The next morning, Selina arrived at the diner to find Frank in a state of excitement. Have you seen the paper? He asked, thrusting a newspaper in her face. The headline made her stomach drop. Billionaire bachelor Alexander Pierce spotted with mystery woman. Below was a photo of Alexander kissing her outside her apartment building. That's you, Frank exclaimed. Our Selina dating Alexander Pierce. Selina snatched the paper. We're not dating, she said automatically, though the kiss last night suggested otherwise. Well, the whole city thinks you are now, Frank said, pointing to the article. The phone at the counter rang, and Frank answered it. Sunrise Diner. He paused, then held it out. It's for you. Selina, Alexander's voice was tense. Have you seen the papers? Just now, she said, heart racing. Alex, how did they get that photo? Paparazzi. They must have followed us. I'm so sorry, Selina. I should have been more careful. What do we do now? I've instructed my PR team to make no comment. This will blow over. But it didn't blow over. By lunchtime, reporters had gathered outside the diner, shouting questions whenever Selina appeared in the window. Frank was thrilled with the sudden increase in business as curious customers filled the booths, hoping to catch a glimpse of Pierce's waitress girlfriend. When Selina's shift ended, William was waiting with the car. Mr. Pierce asked me to take you home, he said. There are reporters at your apartment too. Lily, Selina gasped. Is she okay? She's fine. Mr. Pierce arranged for Mrs. Gonzalez to keep her inside. In the car, Selina's phone rang. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Gonzalez. Selina, darling, the reporters are everywhere. They keep asking about you and Mr. Pierce. Lily is with me, but she's upset. I'm on my way, Selina said. Don't let her talk to anyone. When she arrived home, she had to push through a crowd of journalists. Ms. Carter, how long have you been dating Alexander Pierce? Is it true you saved his life? Are you after his money? That last question stung the most. Selina ignored them all and hurried inside, where Lily flung herself into her arms. "Mom, there are people with cameras asking about you and Alex." "I know, sweetie, I'm sorry." Selina hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Mrs. Gonzalez. Any time, dear." "This is quite exciting, isn't it? Our Selina dating a billionaire." After Mrs. Gonzalez left, Selina's phone rang again. It was Alexander. "I'm coming over," he said without preamble. "No, that will just make it worse," Selina argued. "I don't care. This is my fault, and I'm not leaving you to deal with it alone." 30 minutes later, Alexander arrived with 2 security guards who cleared a path through the reporters. Once inside Selina's apartment, he pulled her into a tight hug. "I'm so sorry," he murmured into her hair. "This isn't what I wanted for you." "Alex!" Lily threw herself at him. "There are people with cameras asking if Mom is your girlfriend." Alexander knelt down to her level. "I know, and I'm sorry about that. Sometimes people are too nosy." "Are you Mom's boyfriend?" Lily asked bluntly. Alexander looked up at Selina, waiting for her cue. "We're friends," Selina said carefully. "Friends who kiss?" Lily raised an eyebrow, looking remarkably like her mother. Alexander coughed to hide a laugh. "Would it be okay with you if I was your mom's boyfriend?" Lily considered this. "Do you make her happy?" "I try to," Alexander said seriously. "Then it's okay with me." Alexander smiled and ruffled her hair. "Thanks, kiddo." Later, after Lily was in bed, Selina and Alexander sat on her small couch. "This isn't going to go away, is it?" Selina asked. Quietly, Alexander took her hand. "Eventually it will die down. But as long as we're together, there will be interest. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry for who you are, Alex. I just hate that this is affecting you and Lily." Selina leaned her head on his shoulder. "We'll manage." Alexander was quiet for a moment. "You could move in with me." Selina sat up straight. "What?" "My penthouse has state-of-the-art security. No reporters could bother you there." "Alex, we've only known each other a few weeks. I can't just move in with you." "I have 6 spare bedrooms," he said quickly. "You and Lily could have your own space. No pressure, no expectations." "That's not the point. I can't just uproot Lily because of some reporters." Alexander sighed. "You're right. I'm sorry. I just want to protect you both." "I know," Selina said, touching his face. "But we've dealt with tough situations before. This is just one more challenge." Alexander turned his head to kiss her palm. "You're the strongest person I know, Selina Carter." She smiled. "Now you're just trying to sweet-talk me." "Is it working?" "Maybe a little," she admitted, leaning in to kiss him. The next morning, Selina woke to a text from Frank. "Don't come in today. Take some time until this blows over. Paid leave, don't worry." She was both grateful and resentful. On one hand, she wouldn't have to face the reporters at work. On the other, she hated that her life was being disrupted. Alexander called while she was making breakfast. "I have to go to Chicago for a meeting," he said. "I tried to reschedule, but it's about the merger with Westfield Industries. I'll be back tomorrow night." "It's fine, Alex. You have a company to run. I've asked William to stay close, just in case." Selina rolled her eyes, though Alexander couldn't see. "We'll be fine. After." Hanging up, she checked her email and found dozens of messages from reporters seeking interviews. There were also several from women's magazines offering money for her story. "Delete, delete, delete," she muttered. The doorbell rang and Selina tensed. Probably another reporter. She ignored it, but it rang again, followed by a familiar voice. "Selina?" "It's Rebecca Pierce, Alexander's mother." Selina froze. Alexander had mentioned his parents lived in Europe and were rarely involved in his life. What was his mother doing here? Cautiously, Selina opened the door to find an elegant older woman with Alexander's blue eyes. "Mrs. Pierce," Selina said, stunned. "Please call me Rebecca." The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "May I come in?" Selina stepped aside, suddenly conscious of her small, modest apartment. Rebecca Pierce entered, her designer suit and pearls wildly out of place amid Selina's second-hand furniture. "I apologize for coming unannounced," Rebecca said, declining Selina's offer of coffee. "But when I saw the newspapers..." She pulled out the same tabloid Selina had seen with the photo of their kiss. "I had to meet the woman who has captured my son's attention. There was something in her tone that put Selina on guard. "Alexander doesn't know you're here, does he?" Rebecca's smile tightened. "My son and I have a complicated relationship, but I care about his well-being. And you think I'm a threat to his well-being?" "I think you're a distraction," Rebecca said bluntly. "Alexander has responsibilities, to his company, to his legacy, to his social position. And I don't fit into that picture," Selina finished for her. "You must admit your worlds are very different." Before Selina could respond, Lily emerged from her bedroom, rubbing her eyes. "Mom? Who's that lady?" Rebecca's expression softened slightly at the sight of the child. "Hello, dear, I'm Mrs. Pierce." Lily's eyes widened. "Are you Alex's mum?" "Yes, I am. He makes really good sandwiches," Lily informed her. "And he's teaching me chess." A flicker of surprise crossed Rebecca's face. "Is he now?" "Yeah. He says I'm a natural." Lily looked at her mother. "Can I have breakfast?" "Of course, honey. Go wash up first." After Lily disappeared into the bathroom, Rebecca turned back to Selina. "She seems like a lovely child." "She is," Selina said firmly. "Mrs. Pierce, Rebecca, I understand your concern for your son, but Alexander is a grown man who makes his own choices." "Indeed he does, but those choices have consequences." Rebecca stood, smoothing her skirt. "I'm not here to threaten you, Selina. I'm simply suggesting you consider what's best for everyone involved, including your daughter. Alexander's life is complicated. There are people who would do anything to hurt him or those he cares about." "So he mentioned something about Victor Chambers." Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "He told you about that? Interesting." She moved toward the door. "Just think about what I've said. A clean break now would be less painful for everyone than a messy ending later." After Rebecca left, Selina sank onto the couch, shaken. The worst part was that everything Alexander's mother had said echoed her own doubts. What if she was just setting herself and Lily up for heartbreak? Alexander returned from Chicago the following evening. He called as soon as his plane landed. "I missed you," he said. "Both of you. How about dinner at my place tonight? I'll send the car." Selina hesitated. "Alex, there's something we need to talk about." "That sounds serious," he said, his tone darkening. "Did something happen?" "Your mother paid me a visit." There was silence on the other end of the line, then a muffled curse. "I'm coming over." "No, Alex," but he had already hung up. 40 minutes later, Alexander stormed into her apartment, his face tight with anger. "What did she say to you?" he demanded. "Hello to you too," Selina said, crossing her arms. Alexander ran a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry, my mother had no right to come here." "She's worried about you." "No, she's worried about appearances. She always has been." Lily emerged from her room at the sound of his voice. "Alex, you're back." His expression immediately softened as he knelt to hug her. "Hey, Squirt, I brought you something from Chicago." He pulled a small snow globe from his pocket. "Cool." Lily shook it, watching the miniature cityscape disappear in a swirl of white. "Can I show Mrs. Gonzalez?" "Sure," Selina said, grateful for the chance to talk to Alexander alone. Once Lily was gone, Alexander turned back to Selina. "Tell me everything she said." Selina recounted Rebecca's visit, watching Alexander's expression darken. "She had no right," he repeated when she finished. "But was she wrong?" Selina asked quietly. "We are from different worlds, Alex, and there are people who want to hurt you. You said so yourself." "So what? We just give up? Let fear dictate our lives?" He moved closer, taking her hands. "Selina, I don't care about different worlds. I care about you, about Lily, about the way I feel when I'm with you both." "And how do you feel?" she whispered. "Alive," he said simply. "For the first time in years, maybe ever, I feel truly alive." Selina wanted to believe him. Everything in her heart told her he was sincere, but doubt nagged at her. What happens when the novelty wears off? When you get tired of reporters calling me a gold digger? When your business associates look down on the waitress playing dress-up? Alexander's eyes flashed. "I don't give a damn what anyone thinks, and neither should you." "It's not that simple, Alex. I have Lily to think about. I don't want her hurt when this falls apart." "When?" he repeated. Not if, but when. You've already decided this won't last. Selina pulled her hands away. I'm being realistic. No, you're being afraid. Alexander's voice softened. I understand. You've been hurt before. But I'm not him, Selina. I'm not going to walk away. You say that now, and I'll keep saying it until you believe me. He cupped her face in his hands. Come to dinner tonight. Bring Lily. Let me show you my world, and maybe you'll see there's a place for you in it. Selina looked into his eyes. Anne saw nothing but sincerity. Despite all her doubts, she couldn't deny what she felt for this man. Okay, she said finally. Dinner tonight. Alexander's smile lit up his entire face. You won't regret it. But as he left to make arrangements, Selina wondered if she was making a huge mistake. Alexander's penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of one of the city's most exclusive buildings. The elevator opened directly into a foyer larger than Selina's entire apartment. Wow, Lily breathed, eyes wide. It's a bit much, isn't it? Alexander said, looking suddenly self-conscious. I'm rarely here except to sleep. He gave them a tour, ending in a vast kitchen where a personal chef was preparing dinner. Carlo, this is Selina and Lily. Alexander introduced them. The chef smiled warmly. Mr. Pierce has told me much about you. I hope you like Italian food. We love it, Selina assured him. Dinner was served on a terrace overlooking the city. The food was exquisite, the view breathtaking. Yet Selina couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. After dinner, Carlo brought out a chocolate soufflé that made Lily squeal with delight. This is the best thing I've ever eaten, she declared. Alexander laughed. I'll tell Carlo you said so. When Lily excused herself to use the bathroom, Alexander reached across the table for Selina's hand. What are you thinking? That this is also intimidating? Yes, she admitted. Your life is so different from ours, Alex. But it could be yours too, he said quietly. Both of you. Selina started to respond when Lily came running back. Mom, Alex, come see. They followed her to Alexander's home office, where the television was tuned to a news channel. On screen was a photo of Alexander with a stunning blonde woman. The caption read, Pierce Enterprises CEO Alexander Pierce and fiancée Victoria Winters at last year's charity gala. Who's that? Lily asked. The lady said she's your fiancée. Alexander grabbed the remote and turned up the volume. Rumors that Pierce has been carrying on a relationship with a waitress named Selina Carter. When reached for comment, Ms. Winters stated that she and Pierce are still very much engaged and that these rumors are simply absurd. Pierce Enterprises has declined to comment. Selina turned to Alexander, her face pale. You're engaged? No, Alexander exclaimed. Victoria and I dated last year. It was never serious and we certainly were never engaged. That's not what she's telling the world, Selina said, nodding at the TV where the blonde woman was now speaking live. Alexander and I have been together for over a year, Victoria was saying smoothly. These rumors are hurtful, but I stand by him. Every powerful man faces these kinds of allegations. Allegations? Selina's voice was cold. Is that what I am? An allegation? Selina, please. Victoria is lying. I broke things off with her months ago, long before I met you. Mom? Lily's voice was small. Is Alex in trouble? Selina took a deep breath, trying to calm herself for her daughter's sake. No, honey, it's just a misunderstanding. She looked at Alexander. I think we should go home. Selina, don't leave like this. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. This, she gestured around the penthouse. This is your real world, Alex, not picnics in the park or dinners at my apartment. This is who you are, Digis. That's not fair, he said, his voice rising. You're judging me based on lies. I'm seeing things clearly for the first time, Selina countered. Your mother was right. We don't belong here. Alexander's face hardened. So, that's it. Victoria makes up a story and you believe her over me. It's not about believing her. It's about realizing that your life is always going to be like this. Cameras, gossip, women from your past. I can't live that way, and I won't subject Lily to it. Before Alexander could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at it and swore under his breath. It's my PR team, I need to take this. Go ahead, Selina said, taking Lily's hand. "We'll see ourselves out." Alexander grabbed her arm. "Don't go, please. We can fix this." For a moment, Selina wavered. The pain in his eyes was real. But then her gaze fell on the television, where Victoria Winters was still talking about her relationship with Alexander. "Goodbye, Alex," she said, pulling free. The last thing she saw as the elevator doors closed was Alexander standing in the foyer, his phone in one hand, looking more lost than a billionaire had any right to be. The next morning, Selina woke to dozens of missed calls and texts from Alexander. She ignored them all. She also called Frank and told him she needed more time off. "Take as long as you need," he said sympathetically. "Those reporters are still hanging around." Lily was quiet over breakfast. "Are we never going to see Alex again?" Selina's heart ached at the sadness in her daughter's voice. "It's complicated, honey. But you like him and he likes you. Sometimes liking someone isn't enough," Selina tried to explain. "Alex's life is very different from ours." "But he makes you smile," Lily persisted. "You didn't smile like that before, out of the mouths of babes." Selina didn't know how to explain to an 8-year-old that sometimes love wasn't enough. That sometimes you had to protect your heart, even if it meant breaking it in the process. The doorbell rang and Selina tensed. If it was Alexander, but when she opened the door, it was William. "Ms. Carter," he said formally. "Mr. Pierce asked me to deliver this." He handed her a small envelope. "He's not here, is he?" Selina asked, looking past William toward the stairwell. "No, ma'am, he's at a press conference." "Press conference?" William nodded. "It's being televised now." After he left, Selina turned on the TV. There was Alexander, standing at a podium, looking tired but determined. "I'm here to address the recent rumors about my personal life," he was saying. "First, I want to state categorically that I am not now, nor have I ever been, engaged to Victoria Winters. We dated briefly last year, but that relationship ended months ago." Selina sat on the edge of the couch, her heart pounding. "Second, I want to set the record straight about Selina Carter." Alexander's voice softened at her name. "Ms. Carter saved my life after an accident at Riverside Park. She is a remarkable woman of incredible character and integrity. Any report suggesting otherwise is not only false, but defamatory." He paused, looking directly into the camera as if he knew she was watching. "Finally, I want to address something Ms. Winters said. She referred to these kinds of allegations as if my relationship with Selina was something to be ashamed of. It is not. In fact, meeting Selina Carter is the best thing that's ever happened to me." Tears filled Selina's eyes. "That is all I have to say on this matter. I ask that you respect the privacy of Ms. Carter and her daughter going forward." As reporters shouted questions, Alexander left the podium, ignoring them all. Selina's hands shook as she opened the envelope William had delivered. Inside was a simple note in Alexander's handwriting. "Selina, I understand if you need space. But please know this, I've never been more certain of anything than I am of my feelings for you. When you're ready to talk, I'll be waiting. All my love, Alex." Selina clutched the note to her chest, torn between hope and fear. Could they really make this work? Or was she just setting herself up for even more heartbreak, as if sensing her? Mother's turmoil, Lily crawled onto the couch beside her. "Are you going to call Alex?" Selina wrapped an arm around her daughter. "I don't know yet, honey." "I think you should," Lily said with the wisdom of a child. "He makes the sad go away." Selina kissed the top of her head, wishing she could see the world as simply as her daughter did. But as she watched Alexander's press conference being replayed on the news, one thing became clear. Whatever happened next, she couldn't just walk away without giving them a chance. Not when he had just declared his feelings to the entire world. With trembling fingers, she reached for her phone. Selina's finger hovered over Alexander's name on her phone. Her heart said call him, but her mind urged caution. Before she could decide, her phone rang, but it wasn't Alexander. "Hello?" she answered, not recognizing the number. "Miss Carter? This is Detective Morgan with the police department. I'm calling. About Alexander Pierce." Selina's stomach dropped. "Is he okay?" "He's fine, ma'am. But we'd like to speak with you regarding the incident at Riverside Park." "The incident? You mean when he nearly drowned?" Yes, Mr. Pierce has made some allegations that we're investigating. Could you come down to the station this afternoon? After hanging up, Selena called Mrs. Gonzalez to watch Lily, then took a taxi to the police station. Detective Morgan was a serious-looking woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. "Thank you for coming, Miss Carter," she said, leading Selena to a small interview room. "Mr. Pierce has filed a report claiming he believes he was pushed into the lake by Victor Chambers, CEO of Chambers Industries." "He mentioned that to me," Selena said. "He said they argued, and the next thing he knew, he felt a shove from behind." Detective Morgan nodded. "We're taking this very seriously. Attempted murder of a high-profile businessman isn't something we see every day." "Murder?" Selena's eyes widened. "He could have died if I hadn't been there." "Exactly. That's why your testimony is important. You were the first person on the scene." Selena described everything she remembered about that morning: the empty park, Alexander's unconscious body in the water, his expensive clothes. Was there anyone else nearby? Anyone who might have seen what happened? Selena shook her head. "No one. I called out for help, but the park was empty." Detective Morgan made notes. "Mr. Pierce mentions you've been seeing each other since the incident?" Selena blushed. "We were, yes, but it's complicated now." "Because of the media attention?" "Partly," Selena admitted. The detective gave her a sympathetic look. "Off the record, these high-profile cases can put enormous pressure on personal relationships. Just be careful." "What do you mean? Victor Chambers is a powerful man with a lot to lose. If he did try to kill Alexander Pierce, he won't hesitate to discredit or intimidate witnesses." Selena felt a chill. "You think I could be in danger?" "I think you should be aware of the situation," Detective Morgan said carefully. "Mr. Pierce has excellent security. It might be wise to stay close to him until this is resolved." Selena left the police station with her mind spinning. Had she been wrong to walk away from Alexander? If Victor Chambers was truly dangerous, were she and Lily safer with Alexander's security than on their own? As if summoned by her thoughts, her phone rang with Alexander's number. "Selena?" His voice was anxious. Detective Morgan said she spoke. "With you. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said, suddenly realizing how much she'd missed hearing his voice. "Alex, why didn't you tell me you went to the police about Victor?" "I was going to, but then everything happened with Victoria, and you left." He paused. "Where are you now?" "Just leaving the police station." "Stay. There, I'm sending William to pick you up." "Alex, please, Selena, just until we know what's happening with Victor. Let me keep you and Lily safe." The urgency in his voice made her hesitate. "I need to get Lily from Mrs. Gonzalez." "William can take you. Please, Selena. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." 10 minutes later, William pulled up in the familiar black car. He drove Selena to her apartment, where she quickly packed bags for herself and Lily, then to Mrs. Gonzalez's to pick up her daughter. "Are we going to Alex's house?" Lily asked excitedly when she saw the suitcases. "Just for a little while," Selena explained, not wanting to alarm her. "Like a mini vacation." Instead of taking them to Alexander's penthouse, William drove to the outskirts of the city, where a gated estate sprawled across several acres. "Where are we?" Selena asked as they approached a large, modern house surrounded by gardens. "Mr. Pierce's country home," William explained. "More secure than the penthouse." Alexander was waiting on the front steps when they arrived. He looked tired but brightened at the sight of them. "Thank you for coming," he said, helping with their bags. "I've been worried sick." "Alex!" Lily launched herself at him, rapping, her arms around his waist. Alexander hugged her tightly. "Hey, Squirt, I missed you." Over Lily's head, his eyes met Selena's. "Both of you." The house was beautiful but less ostentatious than the penthouse. Warm woods, comfortable furniture, large windows overlooking manicured grounds. It felt like a home rather than a showpiece. "This is my favorite place," Alexander explained as he showed them around. "I come here when I need to escape the city." "It's lovely," Selena said, genuinely impressed. Alexander showed Lily to her room, a spacious corner bedroom with its own bathroom and a window seat perfect for reading. "This is awesome," Lily declared, bouncing on the bed. "I'm glad you like it." Alexander smiled. Why don't you get settled while I talk to your mum? Once they were alone in the hallway, Alexander turned to Selina. I know this is awkward after how we left things, he said quietly. But I couldn't bear it if something happened to you or Lily because of me. Is it really that serious? Selina asked. Alexander nodded grimly. The police found evidence on the security cameras near the park. There's footage of Victor and me arguing, then him following me toward the lake. The camera doesn't cover the area where I fell in, but it's enough to make him a serious suspect. Have they arrested him? Not yet. They're building their case. Alexander ran a hand through his hair. Victor knows I've gone to the police. His lawyer called mine, making veiled threats about collateral damage if I don't drop the investigation. And you think that means me and Lily? I don't want to take any chances. Alexander's eyes pleaded with her. Stay here where it's safe, at least until they arrest Victor. Selina considered her options. She couldn't risk Lily's safety, and the truth was she'd been miserable without Alexander these past few days. Okay, she agreed, but just until this is resolved. Relief washed over Alexander's face. Thank you. He hesitated. About Victoria, we don't need to talk about that now, Selina said quickly. Yes, we do. I need you to know the truth. Alexander took her hands. Victoria and I dated for 3 months last year. It was never serious, at least not for me. When I told her it was over, she didn't take it well. She's been trying to get back together ever since. She seemed pretty convincing on TV, Selina said, unable to keep the hurt from her voice. Victoria is an expert at manipulation. She saw us in the papers and decided to stake her claim. Alexander squeezed her hands. But there's nothing between us, Selina. There hasn't been for a long time. Selina wanted to believe him. Everything in his eyes told her he was sincere. I'm sorry I ran, she admitted. I was scared. Your world is so different from mine, and when I saw Victoria, you thought the worst of me, Alexander finished, his voice sad. No, Selina corrected. I thought the worst of myself, that I wasn't good enough for your world. Alexander cupped her face. You are my world, Selina. You and Lily. The rest is just stuff. The sincerity in his eyes melted her resistance. When he leaned down to kiss her, she met him halfway, all her doubts momentarily forgotten. The life at Alexander's country house quickly fell into a comfortable routine. While Alexander worked from his home office, Selina and Lily explored the grounds, swam in the indoor pool, and enjoyed the freedom of being away from reporters and prying eyes. In the evenings, they had dinner together, played board games, and watched movies in the home theater. It felt strangely normal, as if they were a real family. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, Selina and Alexander sat on the patio, watching the stars. I could get used to this, Selina admitted, sipping a glass of wine. Alexander smiled. Me, too. I've never felt so at peace, even with everything going on with Victor. Even with that. He took her hand. When I'm with you and Lily, the rest of it just fades away. What happens when this is over? Selina asked, voicing the question that had been nagging at her. When Victor is arrested and it's safe for us to go home. Alexander's expression grew. Serious. Do you have to go? Alex, we can't stay here forever. Lily needs to go back to school. I need to work. You could find a school nearby, Alexander suggested. And you don't need to work. I have more than enough. That's not the point, Selina interrupted. I won't be kept, Alex. I need my independence. Alexander sighed. I know. It's one of the things I love about you. The word hung in the air between them. Love. You love me? Selina whispered. Alexander met her eyes. More than I thought possible. I love the way you stand up for yourself. I love how fierce you are about protecting Lily. I love that you saved my life without knowing who I was, and that you don't care about my money. Tears pricked Selina's eyes. Alex, you don't have to say it back, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know. But Selina did know with sudden clarity that she loved him too. Despite all their differences, despite the complications, she had fallen in love with Alexander Pierce. I love you too, she said softly. The joy that lit up his face was worth all the doubt and fear she'd felt. When he kissed her, it felt like coming home. Later that night, as they lay together in Alexander's bed, Selina traced patterns on his chest. "What are you thinking?" he asked, running his fingers through her hair. "That I'm happy," she admitted, "but also scared." "Of what?" "Of losing this. Of losing you." Alexander pulled her closer. "You won't lose me, Selina. I promise." "You can't." "Promise that." "What about Victor? What about your mother and her disapproval? What about the next Victoria who comes along claiming you belong with her?" "Victor will face justice," Alexander said firmly. "My mother will come around or she won't. Either way, it doesn't change how I feel about you, and there won't be another Victoria because I'm not interested in anyone but you." His confidence was comforting, but Selina couldn't shake the feeling that their bubble of happiness was temporary. "Get some sleep," Alexander murmured, kissing her forehead. "Tomorrow's another day." The next morning, Selina woke to find Alexander already up and on the phone in his office. His voice was tense as she approached the door. "When?" he was saying. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'll tell her." He looked up as Selina entered, his expression grim. "What's wrong?" she asked. Alexander put down the phone. "That was Detective Morgan. They've issued an arrest warrant for Victor Chambers, but he's disappeared. Left the country last night on a private jet. So he's gone? That's good, right?" "Not necessarily. He could still be dangerous from a distance." Alexander ran a hand through his hair. "The detective thinks we should stick to the security protocols for now." Selina nodded, trying to process this news. "Should we tell Lily?" "No need to worry her," Alexander said. "Let's just keep things as normal as possible." But normal proved difficult when Alexander's mother arrived unannounced that afternoon. "Mother," Alexander said coolly when William showed her into the living room. "This is a surprise." Rebecca Pierce was as elegant as ever in a tailored suit, her silver hair perfectly styled. "I tried calling, but you've been ignoring me." Her eyes flicked to Selina, who was sitting with Lily at the kitchen counter, helping her with a puzzle. "I see you're still together," Rebecca remarked, "despite everything." "Yes, we are," Alexander said firmly. "Mother, I'd appreciate it if you'd call before visiting in the future." Rebecca's lips thinned. "I'm sorry for the intrusion, but we need to discuss the board meeting tomorrow. They're voting on the Westfield merger." "I'll be there," Alexander assured her. "William can drive me." "You're the CEO, Alexander. You can't just phone it in. This merger is crucial for the company's future." "I'm aware of that. I'll handle it." Rebecca lowered her voice, though not enough that Selina couldn't hear. "You need to focus, Alexander. The board is already questioning your judgment after that spectacle with Victoria and the waitress." "Her name is Selina," Alexander said sharply, "and my personal life is not the board's concern. It is when it affects the company. Victor Chambers is using this distraction to undermine the merger." "Victor Chambers is a fugitive wanted for attempted murder," Alexander countered. "Or didn't you hear?" Rebecca waved this away. "Accusations without proof. Meanwhile, our stock is down 3 points since your press conference." Selina felt her cheeks burn with humiliation. She was the distraction, the reason Alexander's company was suffering. "Mom?" Lily tugged at her sleeve. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Sweetie," Selina forced a smile, "why don't you go play in your room for a bit?" After Lily left, Selina moved closer to catch the rest of Alexander and Rebecca's conversation. "I can't put a woman you've known for a few weeks ahead of the company your father built," Rebecca was saying. "I'm not putting anyone ahead of anything," Alexander replied, his voice tight. "I'm trying to balance my responsibilities." "Are you?" Rebecca challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, you've been hiding out here playing house while the company faces its biggest challenge in years." Something in her words struck a chord. Had Alexander been neglecting his business for her? And Lily? Selina remembered the calls he took at odd hours, the late nights at his computer. "I think you should go, Mother," Alexander said coldly. Rebecca sighed. "Just be at the meeting tomorrow, 9 o'clock sharp." She gathered her purse and turned to leave, pausing only to give Selina a cold nod. "Miss Carter." After she'd gone, Alexander came to Selina, his face apologetic. "I'm sorry you had to hear that." Is it true? Selina asked. Is your company in trouble because of me? No, Alexander said firmly. The merger has been in the works for months, and any issues with the stock are temporary. But Selina wasn't convinced. You've been working all hours, even here. You've been distracted. Because of Victor, not because of you. Alexander took her hands. Don't let my mother get to you. She's always been obsessed with the company, even more than my father was. Maybe she's right. Maybe you should focus on the meeting tomorrow. I will, Alexander promised. I'll go to the city, handle the meeting, and be back by dinner. Everything will be fine. But Selina couldn't shake the feeling that Rebecca's visit had changed something. For the first time since coming to the country house, she felt like an intruder. Alexander left early the next morning for his meeting in the city. He kissed Selina goodbye, promising to return by evening. William will stay here with you, he assured her. I've also asked James to stop by. Your brother? Selina asked, surprised. Alexander rarely mentioned his younger brother. He's been wanting to meet you, Alexander smiled. Don't worry, he's nothing like our mother. After Alexander left, Selina tried to keep busy. She and Lily swam in the pool, made cookies in the massive kitchen, and played hide-and-seek in the gardens under William's watchful eye. Around noon, the security system announced a visitor. William checked the camera, then nodded. It's Mr. James Pierce, he confirmed before letting him in. James was leaner than Alexander, with the same dark hair but green eyes instead of blue. His smile was easy and warm as he introduced himself. So, you're the famous Selina, he said, shaking her hand. Alex hasn't stopped talking about you. All good things, I hope. Selina replied, instantly liking him. The best, James assured her. He knelt to Lily's level. And you must be Lily. I hear you're a chess prodigy. Lily giggled. Alex is teaching me, but I'm not a prodigy yet. Prodigy, Selina corrected gently. Want to play? Lily asked James. Alex has a really cool chess set. I'd be honored, James said seriously. As Lily ran to get the chess set, James turned back to Selina. Alex asked me to check on you while he's at the meeting. Mother can be difficult. That's one word for it, Selina said dryly. James laughed. She means well in her own way. She's just very protective of the Pierce legacy. And I don't fit into that legacy. Neither do I, according to her. James shrugged. I chose medicine over business, which was apparently an unforgivable betrayal. You're a doctor? Selina asked, intrigued. Pediatric surgeon, James nodded. Not as lucrative as running Pierce Enterprises, but I sleep better at night. I didn't know Alexander had a doctor in the family. There's a lot you probably don't know about us, James said, his tone light but his eyes serious. Our family has its share of secrets. Before Selina could ask what he meant, Lily returned with the chess set, and James spent the next hour letting her win while sharing stories about growing up with Alexander. He was always the responsible one, James told Selina as they watched Lily swim later that afternoon. Even as a kid, he felt the weight of being the heir to the Pierce fortune. I got off easy as the second son. He doesn't talk much about his childhood, Selina observed. It wasn't particularly happy, James admitted. Our parents were distant, more focused on the company than on us. Alex practically raised me after our nanny left when I was 8. Selina thought about Alexander's easy way with Lily, how natural he was with her. Now she understood why. He's different with you, you know, James said suddenly. Different how? Happier, more relaxed. When he called to tell me about you, I could hear it in his voice. James smiled. You're good for him, Selina. I hope so, she said quietly. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just complicating his life. Oh, you definitely are, James laughed, but in the best possible way. As evening approached, Selina checked her phone. No messages from Alexander. The meeting must be running long, James said, noting her concern. Board meetings can take hours, especially when Mother's involved. He said he'd be back for dinner. I'm sure he'll call soon, James assured her. In the meantime, how about I help with dinner? I make a mean lasagna. Cooking with James was fun. He was charming and funny, sharing more stories about Alexander as they worked. By the time they sat down to eat, Selina felt like she'd known him for years. Still, Alexander, Hadn't called, and dinner passed with no word from him. Should I try calling him? Selina asked as they cleared the dishes. The boardroom has a strict no phones policy, James explained, but I can call Mother's assistant and check. He stepped out to make the call, returning a few minutes later with a frown. That's odd. Janice says the meeting ended 2 hours ago. Selina felt a flicker of unease. Then where is he? James pulled out his phone again. Let me try his cell. The call went straight to voicemail. James tried Alexander's assistant, then his driver, with no luck. I'm sure there's a simple explanation, he said, but his expression had grown worried. Maybe his phone died. Just then, William entered the kitchen, his face grave. Mr. James, Miss Carter, there's something you need to see. He led them to the living room and turned on the television. A breaking news banner flashed across the screen. Pierce Enterprises CEO Alexander Pierce rushed to hospital after collapse, Selina felt the blood drain from her face as the reporter continued. Pierce was leaving the company's headquarters following a board meeting when he appeared to suffer a medical emergency. Witnesses report he collapsed in the lobby and was unresponsive when paramedics arrived. He has been transported to Memorial Hospital where his condition is unknown at this time. The world tilted beneath Selina's feet. James caught her arm, steadying. We need to get to the hospital, he said, his doctor's training evident in his calm voice. William, can you stay with Lily? Of course, sir. No, Selina protested. I want Lily with me. I don't want to leave her. It's not safe, William warned. There will be press everywhere. I don't care, Selina insisted. She'll be scared if she wakes up and I'm gone. James nodded. We'll all go. William, bring the SUV around. And call the hospital security team. Tell them we're coming and need a private entrance. As they rushed to get ready, Selina felt numb with fear. Alexander had been fine this morning. What could have happened? Was it stress from the meeting? Or something worse? What if Victor Chambers had somehow arranged this from abroad? The drive to the hospital was a blur. Lily, still in her pajamas, dozed against Selina's shoulder, unaware of the crisis. James made calls, his voice low and urgent, arranging for a private waiting area and updates from the medical team. When they arrived at the hospital, reporters swarmed the main entrance, but William drove to a service entrance where security personnel were waiting. They whisked the group through service corridors to a private elevator. Dr. Pierce, a woman in a white coat, greeted them as they stepped out. I'm Dr. Reeves, head of emergency medicine. We spoke on the phone. How is he? James asked immediately. Dr. Reeves glanced at Selina and Lily. Perhaps we should speak privately. No, Selina said firmly. I need to know what's happening. James nodded. Selina is family. You can speak freely. Dr. Reeves sighed. Mr. Pierce is stable but unconscious. Initial tests suggest some kind of toxin in his system. Toxin? James repeated. You mean poison? We're running more specific tests now, but yes, that's our working theory. The symptoms are consistent. With a slow-acting poison, Selina felt her knees go weak. Someone poisoned him, Victor Chambers. We've notified the police, Dr. Reeves assured them. They're treating this as a potential criminal act. Can we see him? Selina asked, her voice trembling. Briefly. He's in intensive care. James turned to Selina. Why don't I take Lily to the family lounge? You go ahead. Selina nodded gratefully. She knelt to Lily's level. Honey, I need to see Alex for a few minutes. He's not feeling well. You stay with James, okay? Is Alex going to be okay? Lily asked, her eyes wide with concern. The doctors are taking good care of him, Selina assured her, hoping it was true. Dr. Reeves led Selina to the ICU, where Alexander lay surrounded by machines. His face was pale, an oxygen mask covering his nose and mouth. He looked nothing like the vibrant, powerful man she knew. Alex, she whispered, taking his hand. It was cold and unresponsive. I'm here. A nurse explained that he was in a medically induced coma while they worked to identify and neutralize the toxin. How long will he be like this? Selina asked. Hard. To say, the nurse replied. Hours, maybe days. Selina sat beside him, holding his hand and willing him to wake up. This couldn't be happening. Not when they had just found each other, just admitted their love. You promised you wouldn't leave me, she whispered. You have to fight, Alex, for me and Lily, for us. She didn't know how long she sat there before James came to find her. Selina, he said gently, the police are here. They want to talk to us. Detective Morgan was waiting in a private conference room, her expression grave. Ms. Carter, Dr. Pierce, I'm sorry about your brother's condition. Was it Victor Chambers? Selina asked immediately. We're investigating that possibility, Detective, Morgan said carefully. But there's something else you should know. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a report detailing Alexander's movements that day. Mr. Pierce left the board meeting at noon. He had lunch with a Ms. Victoria Winters at the Maplewood restaurant from 12:30 to 2 p.m. Victoria? Selina couldn't hide her shock. That can't be right. He wouldn't meet with her. We have eyewitnesses and security footage, Detective Morgan said. They appeared to be having an intense conversation. Ms. Winters left first. Mr. Pierce paid the bill and collapsed in the lobby of his office building about an hour later. Selina felt as if she'd been struck. Alexander had lied to her. He'd been meeting with Victoria while she waited for him to come home. Have you questioned Victoria Winters? James asked. We're trying to locate her, Detective Morgan replied. She's not answering her phone and she's not at her residence. Selina stood abruptly. I need to get back to Alex. She couldn't process this new information. Why would Alexander meet with Victoria after everything that had happened? Had he been lying all along? As she returned to the ICU, her mind raced with possibilities, each more painful than the last. Had Alexander been planning to leave her? Was Victoria blackmailing him? Or was this all part of some plan by Victor Chambers? One thing was certain. Someone had tried to kill Alexander, and they might try again. Whatever her doubts, whatever her pain, Selina knew she wouldn't leave his side until he was safe. She took her position next to his bed, clasping his cold hand in hers. I'm still here, Alex, she whispered, and I'm not going anywhere until you wake up and explain yourself. Outside the hospital room, reporters gathered, speculating on the mysterious illness of the billionaire CEO. Inside, Selina maintained her vigil, torn between love and doubt, hope and fear. And somewhere in the city, the person who had poisoned Alexander Pierce was watching, waiting, and planning their next move. 3 days passed with Alexander still unconscious. Selina barely left his side, sleeping in the uncomfortable hospital chair, holding his hand and talking to him softly. The doctors were still working to identify the exact toxin in his system, though they'd managed to stabilize his condition. James took charge of Lily, bringing her to visit briefly each day, but otherwise keeping her occupied at the country house with William's help. Rebecca Pierce appeared once, her face a mask of controlled grief as she stood at her son's bedside. This is Victor's doing, she had said to Selina. He always was ruthless. The police think Victoria might be involved, Selina replied, watching Rebecca's reaction carefully. Victoria? Rebecca looked genuinely surprised. Why would she harm Alexander? She's been desperate to marry him for years. They met for lunch the day he collapsed. Rebecca's eyebrows rose. That I didn't know. Neither did I, Selina said quietly. Rebecca studied her for a moment. You thought he was at the board meeting all day? Yes. I see. For once, Rebecca's voice held no judgment. For what it's worth, I don't believe Alexander would return to Victoria, not after the way he's spoken about you. It was the closest thing to approval Selina had received from Alexander's mother, but it brought little comfort as she stared at his still form. On the morning of the 4th day, Detective Morgan arrived with news. We found Victoria Winters, she told Selina. She was trying to board a private flight to Switzerland. Selina's heart raced. Did she poison Alexander? She claims she's innocent, but we found traces of a rare plant toxin in her apartment that matches what the doctors found in Mr. Pierce's blood work. She's being charged with attempted murder. But why? Selina asked. Why would she try to kill him? According to her initial statement, she wasn't trying to kill him, just make him sick enough to need care. She apparently has nursing training and planned to position herself as his caretaker. Detective Morgan shook her head. She miscalculated the dosage. That's insane, Selina whispered. Obsession often is, the detective replied. We're looking into a possible connection with Victor Chambers as well. Ms. Winters admitted to communicating with him after your relationship with Mr. Pierce became public. After the detective left, Selina sat by Alexander's bed, processing this information. Victoria had tried to poison him, not to kill him, but to make him dependent on her. The twisted logic of it made Selina shudder. "Alex," she said, squeezing his hand, "you need to wake up now. Victoria's been arrested. You're safe." As if he had heard her, Alexander's fingers twitched in her grip. Selina gasped. "Alex? Can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered, then slowly opened. Confusion clouded his blue eyes as they struggled to focus on her face. "Selina?" His voice was barely audible, rough from disuse. "Yes, it's me," she said, tears filling her eyes. "You're in the hospital. You've been unconscious for 4 days." Alexander tried to sit up but fell back weakly. "What happened?" "You were poisoned," Selina explained gently. "The police have arrested Victoria. They think she put something in your food at lunch." "Lunch?" Alexander's brow furrowed. "Victoria? I don't... You met her at the Maplewood restaurant after your board meeting," Selina prompted, watching his reaction closely. Alexander's eyes widened in recognition. "Yes, I remember now. She called, said she had information about Victor. I didn't want to tell you because..." He trailed off, looking guilty. "Because you knew I'd be upset you were meeting her." "Yes," he admitted. "I'm sorry, Selina. I should have told you." Selina fought back her hurt. "What information did she claim to have?" "She said Victor had approached her, offered her money to help discredit me. She played along to gather evidence." Alexander's voice was getting stronger. "It was all lies, obviously. Just an excuse to see me. And she poisoned you." "I didn't eat much," Alexander recalled. "Just coffee and a few bites of salad. I wasn't hungry. Felt strange about meeting her." Selina pressed the call button to alert the medical staff that Alexander was awake. Within minutes, the room filled with doctors and nurses. "Mr. Pierce, good to have you back," Dr. Reeves said, checking his vital signs. "You gave us quite a scare." As they examined him, Selina stepped out to call James with the good news. When she returned, the medical team was just leaving. "He's doing remarkably well," Dr. Reeves told her. "We'll need to run more tests, but his vital signs are strong. The poison seems to be clearing his system." Alone again with Alexander, Selina sat on the edge of his bed. "You had us all worried." "I'm sorry," he said, taking her hand. "Not just for scaring you, but for lying about meeting Victoria. I thought I was protecting you. By keeping secrets? It was stupid," Alexander admitted. "I just wanted to find out what she knew about Victor. I thought if I could prove he was behind everything, you and Lily would be safe." Selina sighed. "Alex, relationships don't work that way. We need to trust each other, even with the hard stuff." "I know," he said quietly. "I'm not used to having someone to share burdens with. I've always handled everything alone." "Not anymore," Selina said firmly. "From now on, we face things together. No more secrets." Alexander squeezed her hand. "No more secrets," he agreed. "Starting now. There's something I need to tell you." Selina's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" "The board meeting. It wasn't just about the merger." Alexander took a deep breath. "I told them I'm stepping down as CEO." "What?" Selina couldn't hide her shock. "But the company is your life." "It was," he corrected. "But nearly drowning, then finding you and Lily, it changed my priorities. I realized I've been chasing my father's approval even years after his death." He looked into her eyes. "I want more than that, Selina. I want a life with meaning, with connection, with love." "But what will you do?" Selina asked, stunned by this revelation. "I'll remain on the board, but I'm promoting James McAllister, my CFO, to CEO. He's been ready for years." Alexander smiled. "As for me, I'm starting a foundation focused on water safety education and swimming programs for underprivileged kids." "Because of what happened at the lake," Selina realized. "Because you saved me," Alexander corrected. "Not everyone is lucky enough to have their own guardian angel nearby." Selina was overwhelmed. "Your mother must be furious." "Actually, she surprised me. Once I explained my reasons, she understood. I think she's finally realizing there's more to life than the company. Just then the door burst open and Lily ran in, followed by James. "Alex," she cried, stopping short of jumping on the bed. "You're awake!" "Hey, Squirt," Alexander smiled, his face lighting up. "I sure am. Are you still sick?" Lily asked cautiously. "Getting better every minute," he assured her. He looked up at his brother. "Thanks for taking care of our girls," James grinned. "You know I've always wanted to be the favorite uncle." He squeezed Alexander's shoulder. "Good to have you back, big brother." As Lily carefully climbed onto the bed to show Alexander the drawings she'd made for him, Selina felt a wave of emotion. This was what family looked like, not the cold, business-focused world Rebecca had tried to protect, but this warm circle of love and support. 2 weeks later, Alexander was released from the hospital. The police had built a solid case against Victoria, who eventually confessed to poisoning him in a misguided attempt to rescue him from Selina and become his caretaker. She also admitted to being in contact with Victor Chambers, though she insisted she'd acted alone in poisoning Alexander. Victor remained abroad, beyond the reach of US law enforcement, but his reputation was in tatters. The scandal had tanked Chambers Industries' stock, and the board had forced him to resign. As for Alexander, his announcement that he was stepping down as CEO of Pierce Enterprises had shocked the business world. The press speculated wildly about his reasons, with many suggesting the near-death experience had changed his outlook on life. They weren't wrong. Upon his release from the hospital, Alexander didn't return to his penthouse in the city. Instead, he went to the country house where Selina and Lily had continued to stay. "Welcome home," Selina said as William helped him from the car. Alexander was still weak but improving daily. He smiled at the sight of her waiting on the front steps, Lily bouncing excitedly beside her. "The best welcome I could ask for," he said, embracing them both. That evening, after Lily was in bed, Alexander and Selina sat in the garden, watching the stars emerge. "I've been thinking," Alexander said, turning to face her. "This house is too big for just me. It needs a family." Selina's heart quickened. "Alex, let me finish," he said gently. "These past weeks have shown me what's truly important. Not money or power or corporate success, but love, family, connection." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I want that with you, Selina, with you and Lily." He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. "I know it's fast. I know we come from different worlds, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Tears filled Selina's eyes. "Are you sure this isn't just because of what happened? Nearly dying twice in the span of a few months gives a man clarity." Alexander smiled. "I love you, Selina Carter. I love your strength, your independence, your fierce heart. I love the mother you are to Lily and the partner you've been to me. Will you marry me?" Selina looked at the ring, then at the man holding it. The billionaire who had learned to make sandwiches, who played chess with her daughter, who had given up his corporate empire for a chance at real happiness. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that promised a lifetime of love. "There's one more thing," he said when they finally broke apart. "I've been talking to Lily about this, and she's very excited about the idea." "What idea?" Selina asked, suddenly suspicious. "Adoption," Alexander said simply. "I want to adopt Lily, to be her father in every way that matters, if that's okay with you." Fresh tears spilled down Selina's cheeks. "You've talked to her about this?" "Just in general terms, about how much I love her, how I want to be her dad." She seemed pretty enthusiastic. He smiled. "She asked if that meant she could have a pony." Selina laughed through her tears. "And what did you say?" "I said we'd have to ask her mum." Alexander took her hands. "So what do you think?" "About the adoption, not the pony. Though I'm open to discussing the pony as well. I think," Selina said, her heart so full it might burst, "that Lily would be the luckiest girl in the world to have you as her father." 6 months later, the gardens of Alexander's country house, now their family home, were transformed with white flowers and twinkling lights. Chairs were arranged in neat rows facing a flower-covered arbor, and guests mingled on the lawn, champagne glasses in hand. Inside, Selina stood in front of a full-length mirror, hardly recognizing herself in the elegant wedding gown. It was simple, but beautiful, just as she had wanted. "You look like a princess," Lily exclaimed, twirling in her own flower girl dress. "And you look like an angel," Selina replied, adjusting the flower crown on her daughter's head. There was a knock at the door, and to Selina's surprise, Rebecca Pierce entered. "May I have a moment?" she asked. Lily, sensing adult conversation, skipped out to find James, who was entertaining the child guests. Rebecca approached Selina, her expression softer than Selina had ever seen it. "You look beautiful," she said. "Thank you," Selina replied. Cautiously, Rebecca sighed. "I owe you an apology, Selina. When Alexander first told me about you, I was resistant to the idea. I thought he was making a mistake." She straightened Selina's veil with gentle hands. "I was wrong." "What changed your mind?" Selina asked. "Seeing him with you, seeing how happy you make him." Rebecca's eyes glistened with unexpected tears. "My husband and I had a business partnership more than a marriage. I wanted better for Alexander, but I was looking in all the wrong places." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small blue velvet box. "This was my mother's. I'd like you to have it." Inside was a delicate diamond bracelet, vintage and exquisite. "It's beautiful," Selina breathed. "But I couldn't." "Please," Rebecca insisted. "Consider it a peace offering, and welcome to the family." As Rebecca helped clasp the bracelet around her wrist, Selina felt the last of her doubts melt away. She had worried that Alexander's world would never truly accept her. But here was his mother, finally offering her blessing. The ceremony was everything Selina had dreamed of, and nothing she had ever expected for herself. Standing under the arbor, with Alexander, Lily between them, she felt as though her heart might overflow with happiness. "I, Alexander James Pierce, take you, Selina Marie Carter, to be my wife," Alexander said, his voice steady and sure. "I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as we both shall live." His eyes twinkled. "Though I hope there's more of the former and less of the latter from now on." Laughter rippled through the guests. When it was time for the vows Selina had written herself, she took a deep breath. "Alexander, when I pulled you from that lake, I had no idea I was saving my own future. You came into our lives unexpectedly, but now I can't imagine a day without you." She squeezed Lily's hand. "You've shown me that love doesn't care about different worlds or backgrounds. It only cares about the connection between two hearts. I promise to love you, support you, and stand by you through whatever life brings us next." After they were pronounced husband and wife, Alexander kissed Selina to applause and cheers from their guests. But the most special moment came next, when Alexander knelt to Lily's level. "Lily," he said, his voice carrying to the front rows. "Today I became your mom's husband, but I want you to know that I'm making promises to you too." He took a small ring from his pocket, a delicate band with a tiny heart. "I promise to love you, protect you, and be the best dad I can be. Will you accept this ring as a symbol of my promise?" Lily nodded solemnly, then threw her arms around his neck. "I love you, Daddy." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden as Alexander stood, lifting Lily in his arms, and took Selina's hand. Together, they walked down the aisle as a family. The reception was elegant but relaxed, with children running on the lawn and guests dancing under the stars. James gave a toast that had everyone laughing, and even Rebecca managed a warm speech welcoming Selina to the family. Later, as Alexander and Selina swayed to their first dance, he whispered in her ear, "Happy?" "More than I ever thought possible," she replied. "Even though you married a billionaire?" he teased. "I didn't marry a billionaire," Selina corrected, looking into his eyes. "I married the man who fell into a lake and needed rescuing." Alexander smiled. "Best day of my life, that fall." "Mine too," Selina agreed, resting her head on his shoulder as they danced under the twinkling lights. 1 year later, Selina stood at the edge of the very same lake where she had pulled Alexander from the water. The park had been transformed for the grand opening of the Pierce Water Safety Center, a state-of-the-art facility offering free swimming lessons and water safety education to underprivileged children. Alexander stood at a podium, addressing the crowd of reporters, city officials and local families. Beside him stood Lily, now 9 years old and proudly wearing a junior water safety instructor t-shirt. 2 years ago, I fell into this lake and nearly drowned, Alexander was saying. A stranger jumped in and saved my life, risking her own. Without hesitation, that stranger became my wife. He smiled at Selena, who stood with their 2-month-old son, James, sleeping in her arms. And that moment changed everything for me. He explained the mission of the foundation, how it would expand to cities across the country, teaching children to swim and educating communities about water safety. Not everyone is lucky enough to have their own guardian angel nearby, he said, echoing the words he'd spoken to Selena in the hospital. Our goal is to make sure they don't need one. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, as families explored the new facility, Alexander joined Selena by the lake. "What do you think?" he asked, wrapping an arm around her shoulders and gazing down at their sleeping son. "I think it's wonderful," Selena said sincerely. "You're going to help so many children." "We are," Alexander corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Lily ran up to them, excited about the swimming demonstrations she'd be helping with later. "Mom, Dad, did you see the pool? It's huge." "We saw it, sweetheart," Selena smiled. "You're going to be a great instructor." As Lily dashed off to rejoin the other junior instructors, Alexander pulled Selena closer. "Do you ever think about how different our lives would have been if you hadn't been jogging that morning? If you hadn't seen me fall in?" "Sometimes," Selena admitted. "But then I remember what you always say." "What's that?" "That some things are meant to be," she said, looking up at him. "That it wasn't chance that brought us together, but fate." Alexander kissed her forehead. "I believe that more every day." Baby James stirred in Selena's arms, his tiny face scrunching before relaxing back into sleep. "He has your eyes," Alexander said softly. "And your stubbornness," Selena teased. "He fought sleep for an hour this morning." Alexander laughed. "Pierce determination. It'll serve him well." As they stood by the lake that had brought them together, Selena reflected on the journey that had led them here. From a desperate rescue to a love that had overcome every obstacle. Different worlds, family disapproval, even attempted murder, to create something beautiful and lasting. She had once been afraid that she didn't belong in Alexander's world. Now she understood that they had created their own world together, one built on love, trust, and family. "Penny for your thoughts," Alexander said, noting her contemplative expression. Selena smiled. "I was just thinking how lucky I am that you fell into a lake." "I'm the lucky one," Alexander corrected, his eyes full of love. "You didn't just rescue me from drowning, Selena. You rescued me from a life without real meaning." He kissed her, gently. "Thank you for saving me, in every way that matters." As the sun sparkled on the lake and their daughter's laughter carried across the water, Selena knew that the fairy tale she had never dared to dream of had become her reality. Not because a billionaire had swept her off her feet, but because two people from different worlds had found in each other exactly what they needed. Someone who saw past the surface to the heart beneath, and that was the greatest rescue of all. The end.